Eric Huffer is here to talk to us. He is a very tremendous leader in our UU community. He has had many roles at the UU Church up in Lexington, and then also many different roles in the Midwest region. And now he is the president of the Midwest region. MidAmerica, I'm sorry. MidAmerica, excuse me, I'm so sorry. MidAmerica, and he's here to join us.
First of all, I want to say that I'm thrilled to be here. I love coming down to visit you guys. I've been a couple of times, never to do a service, but for other occasions. Let's start off with a quote from Rabindranath Tagore, who says, "I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy." The San Francisco County Supervisor, known to those who loved and followed him as the mayor of Castro Street, martyr to the cause of human liberation, began his stump speech all the time with the words, "My name is Harvey Milk, and I want to recruit you." Well, I want to borrow that phrase and say, my name is Eric Huffer, and I want to recruit you. I want to recruit you into the service to this church, this community, and this world. I want to recruit you to move from being a consumer to becoming a citizen, to move into a new understanding of service and community, to looking for what is needed rather than what is provided, where you begin to think of service as a spiritual practice that enriches both your life and the community as a whole. Now, ours is a faith tradition that calls us to service. Many of our congregations make use of the quote from Reverend James Vila Blake, "Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law." You will often hear the phrase, "deeds, not creeds," when people are describing Unitarian Universalism. Each one of us here is called to serve a higher good, to serve the goal of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, to serve one another, to serve the legacy of UUFMC. This church could not exist without your service. Each one of us has a part to play. We serve through providing a financial pledge to this church, through greeting people on Sunday morning, through cleaning up after a luncheon or providing food for a memorial service. We serve through taking leadership positions on committees or the board of trustees, through providing daytime help in the office, through being a religious exploration teacher for our children, youth, or adults, and so much more. This congregation needs each of you to do your part. And you serve your larger community outside the walls of this building. You serve with your work on Project Linus, and with your work with Standing on the Side of Love, and by showing up in Lexington yesterday for the march. So, if we are called to service, how do we enter into it? How do we find places to be of service? How do we avoid burnout? What barriers exist in our congregation that make engaging in service difficult, if not sometimes impossible? And how do we get to the point where is joy? In the classic cartoon Peanuts, Charlie Brown says his favorite class is theology class because it's the only one where nobody knows the answers. Now, I'm certainly not going to claim to have answers either, but I will share some observations and possible insights for us to consider. The most obvious and practical reason to become a leader or offer service is that your church needs you. Congregations are voluntary associations and depend on donations, not just of our financial resources, but of our time and talents as well. In fact, even if our members pledged sufficient financial support that every single task could be farmed out to paid employees, the church would still need volunteers, because that's the nature of a voluntary association. We also get involved in leadership because it feels good. We meet people and form friendships, become more fully integrated into the community. Some of us stop there, of course, satisfying our own need for a sense of belonging. Yet at this point, there is a doorway to service as a spiritual practice. Work devoted to something greater than yourself lifts you out of the narrow sphere of individual concerns, enlarges your perspective, and provides contrast for the joys and concerns of your own life. It's a reality check, bringing us constantly back to the truth of our seventh principle, in which we affirm the interconnectedness of all existence. No lay leader gets to act alone. It means working for and with a group of people who have intertwining needs, hopes, fears, expectations, all to help fulfill a common mission that binds them together. What better opportunity to learn over and over again that we are mutually interdependent? There's another level which opens up most fully when you see your service to your congregation as a spiritual practice. Leadership can provide countless opportunities to learn more about yourself, your strengths and challenges, and how you work with others. You will have a chance to practice patience and learn about listening, really listening, to people with whom you disagree, yet may have something you need to hear. These are valuable lessons. The challenge is to radically reconceptualize the very purpose of service and leadership, not from the congregation's perspective, but your own. Selfless giving is no doubt a spiritual value, but if that comes to dominate your involvement in church life, then that community will become for you a place of work and pressure, no longer your spiritual home. Imagine how your work for the congregation might be transformed if you approached it primarily as your spiritual practice and secondarily as helping the church. Many spiritual traditions emphasize the accomplishment of a task as secondary to the experience of doing the task. You may have even heard it expressed as it's not whether you win or lose, but how you play the game. It's not so much what you do as how you do it, how you do what you do. It's the journey that matters. If your service is entered into in this light, then maybe it's possible that it really isn't important that you get through all the items on the agenda at a committee meeting or a board meeting. If in doing so you must ignore the congregation's commitment to inclusiveness and shut people down so you can be more efficient. It might be possible that it doesn't even matter if you fall short of your stewardship goals, that what really matters is the heart and faith and generosity that went into the effort. Now, this would be somewhat heretical if the church were a business, but it's not, even though we sometimes seem to act that way. Should strive to be, as Archbishop Desmond Tutu once said, an audiovisual aid for the sake of the world, showing how the world should be, working to create the beloved community. If the means are more important than the ends from a spiritual perspective, then our intentions matter greatly. Identifying your intentions means asking why you're doing a particular piece of church work. Why are you discussing a certain change in policy? Why are you having First Sunday lunch? Why are you setting these specific stewardship goals? When you start asking these questions, it's important to have something like a mission statement to serve as a standard to hold your question up to. If you have a good mission statement, it answers the macro level question of why your congregation exists in the first place. And if you can answer that question, you should have the answer to all those other whys. The mission statement should inform and guide every question or task that comes before the church. When you start thinking of your service in those terms, it starts to take on an aspect of spiritual practice. The poet John Donne's famous line says, "No man is an island entire of itself. Every person is a piece of a continent, every part of the main, a part of the main." Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. put it like this: "We are tied in a single garment of destiny." Thich Nhat Hanh simply says, "We enter are." When we enter into service to the church or community, we're not doing it alone. even though at times it may feel like we are slogging away on our own, all by ourselves, trying to get something done. There are others out there engaged in good work. It may even be parallel or synchronistic with your own, and we should try to be alert for those opportunities. But most often, when we're engaged in service to the church, it involves this group process. You have to work with others. This is your real opportunity to engage in spiritual practice. There will probably be any number of people that you always enjoy working with. You look forward to being on another project with them. But it is also likely that there will be one or more people that, for whatever reason, just rubbed you the wrong way. Part of your spiritual practice could be to begin to ask yourself why this happens. What is it about this person that affects you this way? Or you could determine that it might be a good practice to attempt to hear what they have to say with a beginner's mind, leaving your thoughts about the project for later. Understanding that you might gain new insight through this process and new appreciation for that person. That is a spiritual practice. And the cool thing is, you'll grow from it, and your community will grow from it. Now, hopefully, I've encouraged you to think about service to the church and your community in a new way. Possibly have sparked an interest in you to enter into service in some way. So I want to take a minute to talk about barriers to service, because there is little worse than someone being excited about being of service, making multiple attempts to engage in this work, and being unable to break through and participate in service that is meaningful to them and the church community. Who of you have heard of the term silos used in talking about churches? Any of you? I hear it quite a bit in my work in the region, often used to describe churches that have come to think of themselves as self-contained, not making attempts to interconnect with other churches or the rest of the denomination. It's also used to describe scenarios that occur within a church, where silos of people exist. Each silo fills ownership of certain projects or tasks around the church. And it's difficult for new people to engage in service in those areas. It's often not even intentional. Many times you'll hear the people in one of these silos bemoan the fact that they can't seem to get any new volunteers. The problem is that they have already taken up all the space and have established their norms, making it difficult for a new person to move into service in that area. I don't have any easy answer on how to combat this. I'm hopeful that awareness may help. Maybe if groups recognize this pattern of behavior, they can take steps to be more inclusive and inviting. Maybe they can recognize that it might be a good idea to once in a while step aside and invite someone else to take the lead on something that they might normally do. Now, I do see some of this happening. Within the last couple of years, I've seen a number of young adults and newcomers step up in my own congregation and take the lead on a number of tasks and have been welcomed and encouraged to do so. And that's exciting and encouraging. Another barrier to people entering into service in our congregations is the lack of organization and expectations. Sometimes it's simply the failure to create an expectation of service within our community and to make the opportunities for service clear. My home congregation of UUCL has taken a step toward making that happen. Members will be given the opportunity to pledge hours of service, much like you pledge financial contributions to the church. Efforts are being made to create a process to identify talents and opportunities, sort of a directory of talents, and coordinate them. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the results of that are. I would like to leave you today with the idea that service in a congregation can become an integral part of one's spiritual life, not a contributor to burnout, but a door through which deeper understanding of oneself, one's community, and one's world is real. Seeing service as a spiritual practice gives us one more tool to more deeply live and love and be in tune with life's depths, and in this way find our lives and our living transformed. Blessed be.
So say you want to participate in service, but your schedule changes every week. What community members, what participation would you suggest? What activities does this UU church need help with?
I think you heard a couple of invitations this morning.